All right, Mayor, whenever you're ready.
All right, good evening. Welcome to our regular Board of Commissioners meeting for the town of Matthews for July 27th, 2020. We had an earlier meeting this evening at 5 o'clock to discuss a new police citizens advisory committee and also a sub-area transportation model. I'd like to remind everyone that due to Mecklenburg County's COVID-19 stay-at-home order, this meeting of the Matthews Board of Commissioners will be conducted remotely using the Zoom virtual meeting platform. Town of Matthews is committed to transparency and robust public transportation participation during these challenging times. I remind everyone that the mayor and commissioners will vote on each item by roll call, meaning each member will be polled to individually state their vote for the record, and they will also raise their hand to virtually indicate their vote. I'd like to start by introducing our participants tonight. We have Commissioner Dave Bland with us.
Hello.
Town Attorney Charlie Buckley.
Good evening.
Planning Director Jay Camp. Commissioner Ken McCool. Town Clerk Lori Canapino. Town Manager Hazen Blodgett. Mayor Pro Tem Renee Garner. Commissioner and Reverend Larry Whitley.
Good evening, all.
Our intern, Lucia Paulson. Hello, Lucia. Commissioner Jeff Miller. Commissioner John Urban. Assistant Town Manager Becky Hawk. We also have our Communications Coordinator Maureen Keith and Fire and EMS Chief Rob Kinnenberg as well. And now it's time for our invocation. I will call on Reverend Larry Whitley to give the invocation this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Would y'all join me in a moment of silence for civil rights legend John Lewis? John Lewis was very active at a young age in the civil rights movement and voting in the 60s to make sure that voting was affordable for everyone. He was also beaten at the Edmund Pettus Bridge. His slogan says, "See something wrong, say something," which I think is still equivalent for today, that in the midst of where we are, that whenever we see something that's not right, it's incumbent on all of us to say something to make sure we can make it right. He was a man that believed in equality for everyone. He, in his last days with being a cancer survivor of pancreas, he was standing at the last image of Black Lives Matter in Washington, D.C. So I ask you to join me in the moment of silence just for representing the great legend that has passed. Now, Father, we thank you for another day, very life, health, and for strength. We thank you for this board that's come together to do the work of the town of Matthews. We need your wisdom, we need your knowledge, and we need your power to make sound and fair decisions for everyone. Now we ask you to bless every one of the commissioners and all of the town employees, especially for our police and fire and first responders, that you will cover them and let them be able to go out and come back, not only just from this job, but from this virus as well also. And we thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Whitley. I had the pleasure of watching with my son yesterday on TV the caisson horse-drawn carriage carrying John Lewis's casket across the Edmund Pettus Bridge one final time. It was pretty moving tribute there, and I understand there's an effort to rename that bridge the Congressman John Lewis Bridge, which I think would be very appropriate. Okay, let's go on and agenda item number 3, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now move on to agenda item number 4, receive an update on COVID-19 from our Emergency Operations Center Commander, Rob Kinnenberg. Rob. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Today is the 139th day of EOC activity related to COVID. Also today, Mecklenburg County's Emergency Management Emergency Operations Center officially stood up at Charlotte Fire Department headquarters. It's moved from the training academy to fire headquarters, where it will be its permanent home. This is the first time Mecklenburg County has had a dedicated EOC. So this facility will be up and operational 24/7 in times of need. Currently, as of 5 o'clock today, 19,284 cases of COVID have been reported in Mecklenburg County, with 189 deaths. Over the last 2 weeks, we have seen cases increase by 31%, which is a slightly slower rate in total case count. Deaths have also increased by 12%. On average, we're testing 2,500 people a day for COVID, with an average of 10% or 250 people a day testing positive, which is a slight slow over what we've seen in the past. We are bumped up against shortages of testing material by the major testing laboratories, so they've had to cut back some of their testing. The main group that has the highest percentage of infection is the 20 to 39-year-old age demographic, followed by the 40 to 59-year-old age demographic. And currently there are 209 people in the hospital with a diagnosis of COVID. The social distancing index did see slight improvement after the governor put the mask order in place on June 29th, but we've seen a gradual decline in the social distancing index. We're not as far apart as we should be from July 4th to the 15th, and we rather expected that. Currently, 75 residents of the town of Matthews are in isolation in 31 residences, which is a significant reduction, 40% reduction over 2 weeks ago. And we're happy to report that Royal Park is no longer in outbreak status. Atrium reported their highest COVID patient census on July 10th, and it has remained steady at that point. The hospitals are operating at a higher percentage of capacity due to the combination of COVID and the resumption of deferred medical procedures over the last 3 months. Matthews, Charlotte, and Mecklenburg County entered into a joint proclamation reinforcing the wearing of face coverings as a way to slow COVID-19. Mask wearing remains a hot button issue, with many fearful to enforce the mandate for fear of retribution. With the increase in testing, turnaround times are still at the 5 to 8 day mark. Vendors are again asking that testing be prioritized to conserve resources. Emergency service staffing is stable. As of this evening, 85 first responders across Mecklenburg County were out of work because of COVID, which is a fairly significant number. Big questions that are circulating this week is, what impact will the remote learning plan have on schools have on employees across the county? Two-income families struggled through the end of the school year last year and the summer. How will they be impacted with the decision to resume online learning? Again, will we have another shutdown? When will bars and gyms be allowed to reopen? Many are open against the order. Hurricane season is ramping up, bringing up questions of response capability and sheltering if we were to have to move people from the coast. Just as a way to illustrate this, we are further along in the hurricane alphabet naming scheme than we have ever been before. We are up to Hurricane I this week. even though it's 98 degrees, we are starting to discuss winter sheltering plans like Room at the Inn, which has been rebranded Roof Overhead. And we are 98 days away from the November election. There are questions about early voting site selection and how Board of Elections will staff, given that 70% of their staff is over the age of 65. The rest is basically a recap. Are there any questions from council that I could try to answer?
Do you have any questions for Rob? Okay, I'm not seeing any. I think it's only appropriate that we're up to I in hurricanes. This is 2020. We'll probably go through double Z or something before the year's over.
Yes, sir.
Hope not, but it's been one of those years, hasn't it?
Yes,
I had
sir.
a couple comments that perhaps one of them I'm going to direct to Hazen. I know I'm not alone. Yeah, I suspect many of you, and some of you have told me that you've received multiple emails from restaurant owners that are requesting to allow patrons to sit at their bars to eat if they socially distance. Hazen, did you mention that to the county today at all, or did that topic come up?
Yes, sir. So, Mr. Mayor, members of the board, on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we have a countywide call with all the emergency responders. And then we have our own EOC, which includes Rob, Becky, Clark, Tanya, and Maureen that listen in. And the topic did come up. For instance, Davidson strongly supported continuing exactly what we have, really not taking and considering the kind of this people eating at the bar issue. I explained our view on this, and I ate out a couple times this weekend. One of the times there were people bellied up to the bar. They weren't there to drink, they were there to eat, and then they were 6 feet apart. Another time they were utilizing kind of the bar to bump up tables with, and I pointed those out to the group. I think Mint Hill spoke and saw it kind of like we did, or at least I did, or what had been brought to my attention. Charlotte wanted to defer and talk about it again on Wednesday. The county would like to see us just stand pat. I guess my advice would be that we lifted this up to the group. I would not recommend going it alone. If the consensus of the group was to say, yes, let's just keep it, it's messy, but we've gone through one weekend, let's keep it up. I would personally, Mayor, I would support that. But I think Charlotte is really the 600-pound gorilla in the room. And if they say, look, we would rather see the ability for people to eat at the bar. That's really what they're talking about. And they even use sushi places as an example. Some of those sushi places, the bar, or maybe it's not a bar by a sushi definition, but you sit up there and they'll serve you from your seat there at the bar, quote unquote, at the bar. So we'll see what the discussion is on Wednesday, and I'll certainly let you know.
So I don't know how others on the board feel, but it's hard to logically make an argument that, if you can eat at a table socially distanced, why couldn't you eat at a bar socially distanced? It's essentially the same thing. You're sitting 6 feet apart. So this order prevents those restaurateurs that have large bar areas from using their bar at all. And it doesn't make a lot of logical sense to me. I would, I think if social distancing was put in place, you could use a bar area just as you could any other place in the restaurant. But the other comment I had,
Mayor, I don't sit at the restaurants, but I do go and pick up. There's nobody sitting 6 feet apart. The tables are, but there's 4 to 6 at a table. And I think we originally said 10 o'clock, and I see we moved it to 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock at night, if you're not going to be drinking, I don't know people eat a whole lot after 11 o'clock at night. They might be eating peanuts or something, but ordering something. I don't see that.
well, Commissioner Whitley, the concern is that they're not allowed to use their bar area anytime. The bar areas have been excluded from being able to be used to eat, period. At 1 o'clock.
Well, the thing of it is, Yeah, well, my thing is this, and I'm pretty good take of people. They don't want to quit serving the alcohol. You sit there, and who's going to police them just serving it, give them one more drink? So, I think that's just a means to try to get around to still do what, because I still see people not wearing masks, not doing what they're supposed to. So I think what we got in place is good. Let's just hold what we got and see what the others, we already put it in place. It's been one weekend. Let's move forward and hold what we got. That's my
Commissioner Miller.
I tried to catch up on those emails. They looked like they were a copy and paste, but my question is, were any of those emails from our town restaurants or bars? It looked like it represented Charlotte. I didn't recognize anyone.
They didn't say what they owned, so I don't know if any of those are from Matthews or not. It appeared the few that I knew were all Charlotte area folks, but
I think it's mostly nightclubs and have big bars that might be complaining about the serving after 11. I agree with Larry Whitley that, it's rare to have a kitchen open after 11. It may be peanuts or, some kind of Cuomo chip that they're serving or something.
well, again, the issue here is that you can't eat at a bar, period, no matter what time, not at 11 o'clock, anytime.
I think they should be allowed to eat at the bar and socially distance.
That's what they're asking for. But yeah, I think we stand pat and just see if there's any other conversation on it. We certainly don't want to be leading the charge for this, or
right.
Let's just stand
There
pat.
are also times if I go in with two other people, the three of us will sit at the bar and we're already friends or accepting of it. Whether we're at a table or at the bar, if we're close and know each other, I would think that we could support that as well.
Okay, I had a couple other things regarding COVID. The first one, again, is for Town Manager Blodgett. Have you had any conversation with Sue Sproat from Cost Kids and the email she sent out?
So she, I guess everybody got that letter. I mean, I thought she made a compelling case myself. I thought it was very interesting and kind of this gap. So I actually talked to Corey today. Really, there's two fronts we're looking at. One is employees' children between 5 and 12. And I'm asking Corey also to look at, okay, what can you do for the community for that same age group? Now, I have no idea how do you create a safe space, but is it better than no supervision at all? And so Corey is looking into that. I've also asked him to sit on, because the city of Charlotte and Mecklenburg are looking at for their own employees. And I said to Dina, county manager, please include us. I'm not saying we want to be a party to what they're doing, but to get their thought process or logistics, I think would be very helpful. And then the last thing I did do is send a email directly to Sue, like, how can we help? Just a broad, like, how can we help? Because she really is raising a great point. And these are two working families. It's a really good point. So I thought she's.
So you've thrown the ball back in her court?
Yes. Even though we're working separately, she may have specific ideas, and I wanted to we're open to anything, really.
Okay, the last item I want to discuss with regards to COVID is I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Garner, go ahead.
I emailed Sue back as well, and she said, she kind of said, well, maybe Parks and Rec could do something. So, she didn't specify, but she put them in the category of people who can reasonably offer solutions. So to emphasize that point of talking with Corey.
Okay.
All right. I think the final thing we need to discuss, it's that time of month again. It's our last meeting of the month, and we need to talk about next month's meetings. in between our break, between our 5 o'clock meeting and now, I was watching the news, and things don't look good nationally. I don't know that there's a big consensus for us to start meeting in person again in August. So it'd be my recommendation that we meet virtually in August as well. I know that's the wish of staff. Are there any other viewpoints? I hate meeting like this as much as everyone else, but I think I don't think there's a good logical reason to start meeting in person when we still have a pretty high positivity rate and a lot of transmission going on.
Mayor, is there any other towns that's meeting in person?
I'm not sure. I had heard that Mint Hill had, but I'm not, does anybody know? Renee, do you know?
I have not heard.
Charlotte is, aren't they?
I have not heard of anybody that's gone back to face-to-face meetings. I don't know. Larry, I didn't hear your question.
Yeah, that was what I was asking.
Yeah.
Is there any other towns that's gone back meeting face to face?
Mayor Whitley mentioned Charlotte, and they do a hybrid where some are meeting face to face and some are meeting remotely.
Okay.
Yeah, I know on the Metro Mayors Coalition, I would say 85–90% are not meeting in person. A few are using the hybrid model. We discussed that. I wouldn't mind meeting, in person at town hall, but there's some technology issues. It's very difficult to see it, to do a hybrid meeting where you can see the people that are there live as well as those that are calling in. I think that's the case, right, Laura? We still haven't found a good technology solution for that.
That's correct. If anyone would be on the remote aspect, they would not be able to see everyone else. Those in the room would be able to see the folks who are at home.
I think if have at least a component of the meeting virtual, it might as well be all virtual. At least we can all see each other right now, Brady Bunch style.
Hazen, is the town staff coming in at all now?
Yeah, we have, I would probably say on any given day at town hall, I'd say a third of the people.
Are they coming every day or just alternate days?
They kind of rotate in. Planning rotates. We rotate over on our side. Finance is the one that's probably been the most regular attendees at town hall.
Okay.
On a positive note, I did see that both Pfizer and one of the other companies are very close. They're doing stage 3 vaccines, and they think a vaccine may be ready as soon as like Christmas, which will be here before we know it. So maybe by year end, we'll have a vaccine. I know that they did a phase 3 study with like 32,000 people being vaccinated. So see how that goes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Lori, I think maybe it'd be helpful for the minutes or the public that's listening to put Sue Sproat's email in context. She runs Cause Kids. That's a daycare center.
That's good.
One of their focus groups is, I think, folks in need. And she's raising the issue that when school's not going to start, these people, what are they going to do? What are their 5 to 12-year-old children going to do? And she was really, to me, a plea for the community to let's think this through a little bit and be somewhat proactive if at all possible.
Thank you, Hazen, for putting that in perspective. We should have done that. That's right. Lori, do we need to have a vote on the meetings?
No.
Okay, is that the consensus? We'll do the 2 meetings in August remotely, and we'll pick back up in September. Hopefully, cases will start going down and we can meet in person again. I look forward to that. All right. No other questions or comments for Rob. Is that correct? Thank you, Chief Kinneberg. We appreciate that update. Let's move on to agenda item number 5. Are there any items to be added to the agenda, Hazen?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Lori, do we have anybody for a public comment tonight?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on To agenda item number 7, the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion. Accept consent agenda A through H, 1 through 11.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Commissioner Whitley, a second by Commissioner Miller. We'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Bland,
Yes.
Commissioner McCool,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Garner,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitley,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Urban,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. So the consent agenda passes unanimously. We'll move on to agenda item number 8, unfinished business. Consider downtown Matthews mobility and parking study. This will be headed up by Dana Stujenki and Susan Avina Woollett.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
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 I'm just gonna ask Jay Camp to pull up the memo. Awesome. Thank you, Jay. Okay, great. So thank everyone for having us back tonight to discuss the downtown mobility and parking study. It's been a bit, so I just want to refresh everyone's memory about the study. And basically the purpose of the study was to help create future multimodal needs, create and evaluate future multimodal needs for downtown Matthews, including walking, biking, driving, and transit. And basically, we started this whole process back in spring 2019. We had a big shred. We had lots of participation from the community over the summer. And then basically in February of this year, we came to the Board of Commissioners and had a public meeting. Out of that public meeting, we had some comments, and we have been working since then to try to fine tune the document. And obviously COVID-19 has delayed our process, but we did get to go in February to the Transportation Advisory Committee meeting, and that they did recommend approval of the study as a strategy. And they said, but the TAC really wants to see each individual component of the plan and the future projects and approving of those before those actual projects get funded. And so, we've been working, like I said, since about March with some stakeholders that had some concerns. We went back to the consultant and had them do as much tweaking to the document as they could do within the scope of work they had and the money they had left on the basically how much money we had left in the coffers. So what we did is, if you go down, Jay, if you just move up just a tad, that's great, thank you. Scroll down just a little bit. Okay, perfect. So basically what we've come here tonight to talk to you all about are the changes to the document. So we went back to the document and we had wanted to make some specific changes that we heard both from the board members as well as some stakeholders in the community. The biggest one is we wanted to make it clear that this is a study. This has a lot of projects in it, and none of those projects move forward with this particular adoption. There's no fiscal constraints. Each of those projects are going to come up and you all will figure them out. The future boards will look at them, evaluate them, and say yes or no to those individual projects. This is a study. So the language we use is that first bullet. The document now clearly states that it is the intent for all projects, programs, and policies to be thoroughly analyzed and reconsidered individually or by topic or geographical group prior to the implementation. So basically, just like Susan's project for the race intersection came before you, I don't know, a dozen times. I can't remember the exact number of times it came before you ultimately voted to do it. Each of these big projects would, that would happen the same way. The second bullet has to do with the diagonal versus parallel parking. So if you remember, there was some concern about shifting parking on Trade Street and Charles Street from diagonal to parallel. And that's something we removed entirely from the study. So throughout the study area, all of the diagonal parking will remain, and it has been removed from the study, from the recommendations. And so basically, due to consultant costs, we could not take it out of the renderings. And those are the pretty pictures, the ones they hand drew. We did put notes on the renderings in the document saying, this is no longer, this parallel, the parking spaces from diagonal to parallel was removed during adoption. So that language is in the document. An easier fix, bullet number 3, was the GIS maps. They were revised, and for various reasons, Stumptown Park had some issues with its boundaries, so we were able to clean that up. And the last bullet is changing the name back to the original name to Downtown Matthews Mobility and Parking Study, and taking out the word plan. And I think some folks on the board got confused by the word plan. So we wanted to make sure that there was no confusion. We didn't mean to confuse anyone. So we are now, it's being called Downtown Matthews Mobility and Parking Study. So like I said, we spent March, April, tweaking the document. We sent everything out to the downtown distribution list, which has about over 50 people on it, as well as the Board of Commissioners to you all back on June 17th, in that week. And we wanted to make sure everyone had ample time to read it, review it, and make sure that they could provide us feedback. Again, the fiscal impacts are very, there's no fiscal impacts with the adoption of the document at this time. And we are coming to you with the hopes of adoption for the Downtown Mobility and Parking Study, the date of being 6/15/2020, which is the updated version. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Okay, do we have any questions for Dana? Commissioner Bland.
Yeah. So we adopt this thing. How do we, if we see something we want to add or make changes to it sometimes in the future, what's the process for doing that? Or is it just sort of a living document that can be changed at any time?
I don't know if I may need Jay to help me with this. I mean, we can amend the document. I assume that's pretty standard. I see Hazen nodding his head. So I assume we can amend the document.
We can amend it. And Charlie, this is not a zoning document, so it would not have a hearing process. Is that correct?
You're on mute, Charlie.
Charlie, you need to.
Yeah, no, it does not require a public hearing or anything. It could just be on an agenda.
Okay.
Commissioner Miller. You're on mute, sir. You're on mute, Jeff.
As Dana said, if it's a study now, when we implement or want to implement and therefore fund it, any tweaks could be made at that point. Is that correct?
Again, Hazen's nodding his head, so I'm gonna.
Yeah. I mean, it's y'all's document. I think to me, this is like a roadmap that the staff has no desire to jam it down anybody's throat, because it's going to take money, first of all. Yeah. And I think if somebody came with an idea to change it and add an addendum to it, as long as it was kept under the same study, that probably is a good way to do it. So it's a common place we can all look for. Oh yeah, December of 2020, they made this amendment to it. Excuse me.
Okay.
Dana, did you receive any feedback from stakeholders, some of the ones downtown, regarding Heifer Road going through their property?
So in the past 24 hours, I've been told, so I've not heard this myself, but I've been told that there is one stakeholder that's concerned about a shared street versus a pedestrian connection that's labeled on the property. And, I think that's easy to fix if that's something you all want to fix now or later, whatever it is that you want to do. And I believe I have a map. Here we go. Thank you, Jay, so much. So right there is, and can everyone see that with the arrow pointing?
Yes.
So that that is basically, you can't see the legend. I'm sorry about that. So that darker green, it sort of looks greenish gold on my computer, and that is a shared street. And so you see the little dots, the green dots leading up to that. That is just a PED connector. So those are two different types of facilities. Again, this is a roadmap, as Hazen said, and if that is something that you all want to change to a pedestrian facility or get rid of the shared street altogether, it's something that's been shown on the downtown master plan. Is that what it was called, Jay? The prior document?
Yeah, so that was shown as a pedestrian only street in the downtown master plan. And
Well,
part of the
would
motion
be
this evening
if-
could be to make that modification. I'm sorry, Mayor.
Yeah, I would just say I would not, if we know this is an issue with an important stakeholder, I would recommend that we change it before adopting it or make that part of the motion to adopt tonight. Commissioner Miller.
Jay, directly up and to the left of that shared street is a different colored green dotted line. Is that a breezeway between the buildings? Yes.
Yes, that's a potential pedestrian connection up to Trade Street. Of course, that's the current location of the Pop's Grill building, which would need to be relocated for that to occur, or that line would have to go around that structure.
So it's, as of right now, that's going through a building? I thought it was like a rain gutter or a 3-foot breezeway.
Yeah, to my recollection, that line goes about where the Pop's Grill building sits today.
Okay, I would support the pedestrian only on the center of the H.
Okay, that's something that we can easily change. I mean, just so you all know.
Is that a motion, Commissioner Miller?
Yes. Let me see. I would like to, let me find I don't think I'm on the memo. I'm on the slideshow. I would like to make a motion that we adopt the downtown mobility and parking study dated 6/15/2020, and that we include the fact that the area shown behind Renfro's and through the field is a pedestrian only walkway.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Miller. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner McCool. Is there any discussion? Mayor Pro Tem Garner.
Sorry, I thought I had a good grasp of what that was in that area, but clearly I don't. So it looks like there is a pedestrian crosswalk around both sides of the BB&T building. Is that correct?
Why don't we have Jay flip back on the map? That may be easier for all of us to see.
Sorry, bear with me. Have it just a moment.
Looks like Jay's piloting an airplane or something.
On the executive summary, I believe page 2 has a visual photo that might be digitally enhanced of the drive, and the pedestrian walkway is sort of shown between the white car and the brick line to the left, if that helps at all.
Mayor Pro Tem Garner,
Yeah.
there is, I'm not sure which, you're talking about B and T, and so that is where Jay is pointing now, on that side of John Street.
Yes.
And the area that we're talking about is where the darker green is, where that H is formed, and that small section that traverses the backside of David Blackley's property.
Okay, so, right, but, so there are two paths around the BB&T building. Is that correct?
Correct, those two green lines there.
And then one leads up to a path
Mhm.
on the other side of Pita Kebab. or-
Correct, where the little creek is. Or
Okay. And then the other side would be a through street. And then a connector street would go over to Cotton Gin Alley.
Well, they're proposing that connector street would now be a pedestrian alley. I think that is what, or pedestrian, would be a pedestrian only where the green dot is. Jay, do you want to show her that little piece that little piece?
Yeah, this segment would be pedestrian only and no vehicular traffic.
And so what Mayor Higdon is saying is there may be a property owner that has a problem with this being in the document.
Yes. Go ahead, Jay.
I was going to say that the concern, as I understand it, was the conversion from this just being this, kind of a pedestrian path to the back of that vacant lot to being a full-blown street shown on their property.
That's correct.
But the actual path is not an issue. It's just the whether it's pedestrian or car friendly.
That's as I understand it.
Okay. Okay, then that answers, I'm sorry, that answers my questions.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Miller.
Cotton Gin Alley remains vehicular, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then the other side of the H is a new street in the plans, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so the center of the H is pedestrian only, according to what I understood my motion to be, just for clarification.
Correct. That's my understanding.
Thank you.
All right. We had a motion by Commissioner Miller, a second by Commissioner McCool. We'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Bland,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Garner, Commissioner Whitley,
Yes.
Commissioner Urban,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner McCool,
Yes.
and I vote yes. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Let's move on to agenda item number 9, new business. 9A, receive monthly budget report from Beth Blair. Hello,
Yes.
Beth.
Hi there. Good evening, everybody.
Hello,
Nice.
Ms.
Still at work.
Yes. I have a new, my reasoning, I have a new dog at home and I didn't want to risk her barking during my presentation. So that was the reason why. What you have that I sent out as part of the packet is a preliminary estimate of fiscal 20 financial results. We're still to receive some tax revenue from the state in September. So I did my best estimate to provide you with where I thought we would come out for the year. So as of now, I'm projecting that revenues will be greater than expenditures by about 200,000 for the year. Again, that's contingent upon what we receive in September, which is applicable to fiscal 20. And the tourism tax revenue is expected to be down about 25% for the year, which is slightly better than what we forecasted. We forecasted it to be down by 30% based on information we got from the state and the county. So that was 25% is a lot, but it wasn't as bad as we thought. And so, but revenues, because of both the occupancy and the rental car tax being down by about 25% versus budget, we're expecting that the tourism fund balance appropriation for the year to be 658,000, which is about 115,000 more than what was budgeted, again, driven by the decrease in the tax revenue due to the pandemic. So that's my best projection. We still have one more day we're closing accounts payable tomorrow. So again, I've estimated additional expenditures, and then there may be, we go through the audit and there may be additional adjustments as a result of the audit as well. So this again is preliminary. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Beth. Are there any questions for Ms. Blair? I'm amazed, honestly, that we're doing as well as we are. Good job. I know that particularly some of the smaller towns, Eastern North Carolina, are really struggling, and there's talk that some of them may even go bankrupt during COVID. So we seem to be in pretty good financial shape. So any questions, comments? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 9B. Consider exemption from qualification-based selection process for design work for a rapid flashing beacon on Crestdale Heritage Trail. Susan Havina-Willard.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. I am honored tonight to be representing my friends in the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resource Department. Corey was not able to make the meeting, and I offered to present this item because it is traffic related, and it is also engineering related. As you may have seen, the construction of the Heritage Trail project is nearing completion. And the original plans had some signage at the John Street crossing of the trail over to Graylock Ridge. After meetings with the North Carolina Department of Transportation, Captain Stacey Terrell from the police department, and Corey King, we decided we wanted to do something better for that crossing and to install a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. That device is approved. However, it does require engineering design for that device. This is the device where it's pedestrian actuated. You push the button and there are rectangular flashing lights underneath the pedestrian warning sign. So not the big circular beacon that's over on South Trade Street, but something a little more streamlined and has very good field results. Anyway, the request tonight is for exemption from the qualifications-based selection requirement. This is allowed per law, that any design work that will come in under $50,000, the municipality can opt to exempt itself. I've asked around, and this work will cost between $6,000 and $8,000. And so the request before you tonight is to allow us to exempt ourselves from the QBS selection so that we can move forward with the design of the rectangular rapid flashing beacon for the Heritage Trail project. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Hey, are there any questions for Susan? Mayor Pro Tem Garner.
Okay, so my question is less about the beacon and more about how you got permission to do a crosswalk, and what's the likelihood we could get one for the bus stop?
The bus stop on West John Street?
Yes.
Yes, Dana is working on that. Right now we have preliminary verbal for both crosswalks. It's just staff time to coordinate the implementation of the one on West John Street.
And will there be a painted crosswalk markings on the asphalt or on the actual street?
I believe at that location, and we'll come to you later for that one, but I think if we put a crosswalk at that location, because it's mid-block, it would also require a flashing beacon, which would be our costs as well. We'll be back to you later on in a couple months with the cost for the rectangular rapid flashing beacon. And so that'll help you make a decision for the West John Street one.
But would the Crestdale one have the stripes on the road?
My apologies, I misunderstood. Yes, we're not going to paint the crosswalk until the beacon is installed, because we don't want to give that false sense of security to people who might be crossing at variable speeds. So we want to have the beacon in place, and then we'll put in the crosswalk.
Let me just be
And
sure.
so, go ahead, go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Me?
Dave? Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to be sure I understand it. This is across in John Street, right there where the, over to the, I guess, the Greenway, is that it? Is that what we're talking about? Going to do the crosswalk? Because there's been a sign up there. I was just coming through there today. I noticed that there was a flashing sign there. Is that where you're talking about putting it?
That's correct. The crossing would be at the intersection with Graylock Ridge Road.
Okay. I just want to be sure
Commissioner
that
Whitley, did you have a question?
Yeah, how are these beacons powered, Susan?
Good question. They will be solar power.
Okay, that was I was thinking that, but I wasn't sure. Just that's what I wanted to know.
Very sustainable. Any other questions for Susan?
I would be really excited to make a motion if there aren't any other questions.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I
do.
I motion to approve the exemption from GS 143-64.31, identifying the cost for engineering design cost for the rectangular rapid flashing beacon for the Heritage Trail, projected to be between $6,000 and $8,000. Is that what? $6,000 and $8,000.
Okay, we have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Garner. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner McCool. I'll do a roll call vote. I'd like to say before we vote that I think this is probably going to be one of the most utilized crosswalks in town. So I'm glad we're going to make it as safe as possible. Kind of tipped my hand on how I'm going to vote, but Commissioner Bland, how do you vote, sir?
yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Garner,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitley,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Urban,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner McCool.
Yes.
I vote yes, that passes unanimously. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, everyone, for the discussion.
All right, we'll move on to item 9C, consider request for flooring maintenance from the Levine Senior Center, CJ O'Neill.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. We brought this to you. Oh, boy, my screen disappeared. Okay. I guess I'll be looking at this. So we brought to you back in March that the Levine Senior Center needed to be repaired. The flooring there, at the time we had brought a couple of options to the board. The one that was recommended by staff was to use a Rubio monocoat. At the time, that was roughly $16,800. And then the board asked if we had considered other options, specifically looking at luxury vinyl, whether planks or squares or something similar, something that might be more commercial and would have a warranty. So we had not. So we did go back and look at that, and actually the Levine Senior Center staff looked at that and spoke with a few of the different vendors out there, and decided not to move forward with in that manner for a couple of reasons. One, they rent out the space to different dance classes, and the type of feel that you get with the LVT flooring is not what they want. They want the hardwood floor. The LVT tends to grip shoes and cause issues with ankles. So they do want to just refinish the floors that are there. The other thing is that a lot of times putting another topping on it will ruin the hardwoods, which also they didn't want to do. So, however, it did give us some options or some time to look at other options. And they think they found an even better option than what we brought you before. And that is to use a coating on it that is the same as what they use on basketball courts. So this is a much more heavy duty coating than what we originally suggested. The price is a little bit less at $15,488. And we don't have the issue right now with the fumes and such because the center is not open. So it's the most opportune time to do it. It does come with a 2-year warranty. However, the flooring installer or the coating installer thinks that it should last for at least 5 years with this type of use. So our recommendation is to move forward with the coating for $15,488 from Custom Floor Solutions.
I've got a question. Will it make your sneakers squeaks when you go across it like the basketball courts did in high school?
Only if you lick your fingers and wipe the bottom of your shoes first.
Right. All right. Are there any questions for CJ? Do we have a motion?
So moved. That we approve the suggested change in plans.
Thank you, Commissioner Bland. We've got a motion from Commissioner Bland. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Whitley. We'll take a roll call vote. And again, this is to use the, CJ, you want to wrap it up a little more clearly? What is the product called?
It's the Bonna All Court Gloss installed by Custom Floor Solutions.
At a cost of $15,000?
$15,488.
Okay. Is that your motion, Commissioner Bland?
Got it, exactly.
And second by Commissioner Whitley.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
we'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Bland, how do you vote, sir? Mayor Pro Tem Garner?
Yes.
Commissioner Whitley?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Urban?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner McCool?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. So good to go, CJ. Thank you.
Thanks. And there's also a budget amendment, I think, that needs to be done along with this.
That's correct. You need to vote on the budget amendment. Number one under that C.
Under the C. Let's see. Hold on.
I will entertain a motion.
Let's see it. Let's see. I move that we amend the budget, I guess, to read. I'm looking for the amount. I don't see the
$15,489.
okay, 15,000, move to $15,489, appropriate that for the new flooring.
We have a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, we do the same exercise again. Commissioner Bland?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Garner?
Yes.
Commissioner Whitley?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Urban?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner McCool?
Yes.
I vote yes too. So now you're good to go, CJ. Now you've got
Thank
the
you very
money.
much.
All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 10, Mayor's Report. I did participate this past weekend with a fundraiser that the Matthews Playhouse put on. We played Family Feud. I was on a team with Lee Myers, Paul Bailey, Jim Taylor, and Chris Melton. It was a lot of fun. We got totally slaughtered by a team from Allen Tate, but it was fun. I only bring this up to mention that I know the Matthews Playhouse is going to be putting on these type of events somewhat regularly, and they're going to be asking our board to participate. So I hope if you'll consider doing that. It's just a variety of nonprofits receive monies, and also the Playhouse, which is obviously hurting from funding to pay for a lot of their summer camps and training and some things that they're still have ongoing that they have expenses for. So when you get that request next time, or one of the times, I'm hoping that you can make an effort to participate. It's usually a lot of fun, usually something kind of silly, doesn't take a lot of time, and it is fun. That's all I've got. We'll go on to item 11, the attorney's report.
Just a brief request from the board. I have the Municipal Attorneys Summer Conference on the 6th and 7th of August. It will be a virtual conference this year. It will not be held in person, so there won't have all that expense, but there is a registration fee and a couple of other minor fees. So I would just simply ask that the board approve my attendance at the Municipal Attorney's Summer Conference, but it will be a virtual conference.
Okay, that will require a roll call vote, I suppose.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we need a motion to allow Charlie to attend.
I'm making a motion for our town attorney to attend virtual meeting in August.
6th and 7th. Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Whitley, a second by Commissioner Bland. We'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Bland,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Garner,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitley,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Urban,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
and Commissioner McCool.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So,
Thank you.
Thank you,
all
Charlie.
right. Is that all, Charlie?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to town manager's report.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
And a motion to adjourn.
Motion
Man,
to,
it's not even 8 o'clock. I think we ought to wait at least to 8. I'll second.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn by Commissioner Miller, a second by Commissioner Whitley. Commissioner Bland, how do you vote, sir?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Garner, Commissioner Whitley,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Urban,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
yes, sir.
Commissioner McCool.
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Congratulations. This is the shortest meeting I think we've had since we've been an elected board together. So thank you. Y'all have a great evening and we'll talk to you soon.
Be safe.
Stay safe, everybody. Love you
Thank-
guys.
You say.
Thank you.
Good night, all.